What up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. It means a lot. I really appreciate it. This is episode 2 of season 5. And today we have Danny of Versus Atlanta on the show. Okay, Danny is a super OG. He got into vintage in the early days, thrifting with his brother, and then later got into snapbacks. And he had this dig going for like 5 years where he was getting all kinds of crazy snapbacks and sports gear. He talks about that. Then he built out Versus ATL. Recently, they opened a brand new renovated space in Atlanta. You got to go check that out. We talk about that. We talk about working with his partners. We also talk about his debut on the Netflix show Swap Shop. Him and his partners got chosen to be on this reality show about picking. It's really dope. It's on Netflix right now. It's pretty new. And you can go check that out too. We get into that on the show and lots of other stuff, including working at his family's Mexican restaurant. Super cool. Great guy. Really good conversation we had. So thanks again for tuning in. If you like the podcast, if you find value in it, if you like the guests I bring on, please share it. Tell your friends. Post it on Facebook. Post it on your Instagram. It means a lot to me. Without further ado, enjoy the episode.
We got vintage clothing by the rack. Yeah, just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'ma run it back. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'll have some of that.
Okay, Danny, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. You have been in the game for a long time. As far as I know, like came up through the snapback world, many moons ago. And you're the partner in VSATL. Also grew up in a Mexican food restaurant that you still work in to this day, which I think is fucking rad. So thanks for coming on the show, dude.
I appreciate you for having me, man. I've been wanting to do one of these and whatnot with you because I listen to them, So
Oh,
I
sick.
haven't listened to the newest one yet, but I definitely will.
Dope, dude. Well, I appreciate that, man. Okay, so we've talked over the past, I don't even think we've ever actually, have we met in person? It's so weird now with the internet.
Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl, okay. Yeah, and so I've known you since like way back in the snapback days. You were like one of the OGs going out and finding digs and selling online, right?
Right.
Do you want to like get us into that? Like how did also before we even get into that, I got to mention you're also on a Netflix show here that I just binge watched, which is super dope. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
We are going to get into that on the show, but we're going to wait till later in the episode because we got lots to talk about before we even talk about that.
Solid.
So started out with like, how did you get into vintage? I got some info from your brother. You're like a sibling of 4. And your bro said he kind of got you into thrifting.
Yeah.
Is this true?
Absolutely, man. My brother's 6 years older than me. So pretty much my whole life, I just grew up just hanging out with him and his friends, So anything he did, little brother wants to do the same thing. So,
Totally.
He got me into skateboarding when I was like 8 years old, and like I did everything else he did. So once he got a car and whatnot, he started thrifting a lot but he was looking for different things. He was more into like Polo, Lacoste, Le Tigre, just like that's more preppy stuff, I want to say. He was more into the collared shirts and the cardigans and whatnot. But I knew how to find that stuff with him, and then I would just be looking for like skate tees, I wanted like Toy Machine shirts, America, S shirts, stuff like that. So that's how it all started, like just thrifting and whatnot. I was like, man, you can get fresh and not spend a lot of money, But
Brad, I will say he did say he got you into skating too, but he said that you got way better than him.
Yeah, well, I started at a young age, and just like, growing up and skating with older people, you want to be like, you're the small cat, but you still want to be like the big dog in skateboarding. So, anything to impress them, I was like, man, I was trying everything. I was skating every day in my garage. Like, I was very consistent with it as a kid,
Yeah,
from
that's
minute.
I wanted to say I got a lot of similarities with you in that regard. Like my brother Jesse, he's 2 years older, but same scenario. Like I hung out with him and his homies a ton. He got me
Mhm.
into skating. He got me into the vintage game. I mean, our dad did really, but like, and yeah, like you feel as a younger sibling, like you got to keep up with these guys. Like you got to like, you want to like impress them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel the similarities there for sure.
Yeah, and it was very cool. Like he started working at a local skate shop, and then I was pretty good at that time. Like I was like in eighth grade, and then the skate shop owner was like, "Hey man, you want a job here on weekends?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I was like, "Cool, man." I started working there like eighth grade summer at the skate shop, putting boards together and whatnot, and it was fun, man. I worked there for years at a skate shop. And that's a little kid's dreams.
Totally,
So.
dude. Yeah, I never did that. That's sick. So when did you get into the snapback game and like do you rem do you remember like that time well and like how it all kind of like happened and the big boom there? And because I know back in those days you found a few digs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I found a good amount, you know. So I got into, I want to say, just like seeing like the rappers and whatnot wear. I think I want to say Tyga and like Chris Brown were like the first ones to wear it. I didn't necessarily love or like their music, but I liked the way they dressed and whatnot with the teaser and all that stuff. So it was around that era. I don't know when exactly that was, like what, 2009, 10, I want to say.
Yeah.
But I looked up the hats and whatnot. I just looked up snapbacks, just like I looked into them. I looked into some brands. I had found some at the flea market when I was out with my parents and whatnot, and I found a Lakers sports specialty script in the 76ers sports specialty.
Nice.
And I was like, dude, these have to be old. So I looked them up, and of course, they're vintage. So I was like, okay. So then I started getting into eBay and all that. And when I went thrifting, I started looking for hats again. So that's right when I first started, man. Just the hat game was first, because I always liked hats. Like even as a kid, like I used to collect fitteds.
Yeah.
I was like third, fourth grade, and I was collecting fitteds. I had like 30, 40 of them. Like every time I got a chance to buy one, I'd buy one. So I've always liked hats.
It's so weird, the hat game. Like obviously snapbacks are from the 90s. Well, snapbacks go back to like beginning of hats, but then like all through the 90s, all the licensing was snapbacks. Then early 2000s or like late 90s, early 2000s, it went like all to fitteds, right? And then
Mhm.
it was like, then the resurgence of snapbacks came back because you still at 2010, like it was hard to find a snapback from like a new brand or from a licensing company. They were all into fitteds. So that's kind of why like people were like, well, fuck, I want the snapbacks are dope or the vintage, better designs. And then every company started to like resurge snapbacks back into the market. But it's an interesting timeline of hats. Um, so tell us, like, obviously you finding hats at the flea, like that's kind of where a lot of people came up on big digs because people would go to the flea and like dump storage units of shit, like truckloads of old store stock or whatever they had. Um, Tell us about like your brother said I don't know where it was, like Tennessee. You're from Tennessee, right?
I'm from Tennessee, yeah.
So, but he said you were driving to like Nashville or somewhere to go buy hats or from
I
some.
was I had found a place in Kentucky, but
Okay.
so here's a whole story about it. So at that time, I think I'm a freshman or a sophomore in high school, and I worked. I was working at PacSun, Pacific Sunwear, that stuff.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
working, and at that time, I had already got into the snapbacks and whatnot. I started researching them. Of course, I ran into your all's page, F is in Frank or whatever, and you guys had a lot of them. And I was like, holy shit, these are worth money. eBaying and whatnot. And this girl came in, and she had a crispy ass Florida State starter hat, and it was a white one. I was like, no way, that thing looks brand new. And I asked her, I was like, hey, would you sell that hat off your head? And she was like, yeah, what do you think? And I was like, I'll give you $20 for it. And she's like, okay, cool. I'll go back and I'll go get another one. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you'll go get another one? She's like, yeah, the store I go to has a bunch of them. And I was like, starters? And like, yeah, oh yeah. And I was like, what's it called? She gave me the name. I looked them up. It were, I'm pretty close to the border. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Kentucky border is like an hour away, you know? So I called this place and I was like, hey, do you guys have hats? And he's like, yeah. I was like, do you have any starter hats? And like, yeah, we got some starter hats. I was like, okay, cool. Can you put them to the side? I'm going to come up there. I want to buy them. And he was like, all right, cool. I get there. Oh, so let's see here. Before I had my son is 10 years old now. So the first time I went up there, I went up there with my wife, and I get there and it's like a sports store. And of course they have bats, cleats, all this stuff. I was like, man, they're not gonna have anything. I'd never found anything yet. You know, it was my first gig ever. So I get there and then I'm like, oh, where are your hats at? I go over there and he put those hats to the side. And of course, they're all starter Raiders hats.
Damn.
You know? So that was at that time, I knew that Raiders and Bulls were probably the most sought after. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I just came up. I tried not to act too exciting, to let them know that I was super stoked because I was screaming inside. I knew I was about to make some money. So I was like, hey, so how much are the hats? And like, they're $5 a piece. I was like, holy shit. So I grabbed all the Raiders first and all the Bulls stuff. And then they had a bunch of the game and signature hats. And when I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to pick these up too. And I left with a shitload of stuff. And then I went in the back room and I found some clothes. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And like, I hadn't got into the sports stuff yet. I'm not much of a sports guy. I've never kept up with sports too much, but basketball is probably the only thing. But they definitely had like Bulls stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like the stuff that they're wearing with the snapbacks and whatnot. And I was like, I'll take some of this stuff. I bought a bunch of stuff and then I started selling it to my friends. And of course I put the Raiders and all that all on eBay and I was cashing out. I was like, I did my research on them. I priced them accordingly and people were just buying them and I was making some serious money. So I was like, holy shit, I'm going to go back and buy just the other ones, sell them for 30, 40, $50. So I literally went up there for years, like, of course there was some other guys going there, because there was a college campus up there, but I was trying to buy as much as I could at the time. But I built a really good relationship with them and they started letting me, started pulling stuff out for me. They didn't let me in the back yet, but I was like, holy shit, you got more hats? Then I started finding the denims. I found some denims there. And then that's how I discovered the Paisley starter hats, which made me go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you remember, those hats were like they're just so detailed, Yeah,
and then they have the baseball jerseys to match.
Yeah, and it was only made for MLB, which I was like, man, I wonder if they make like Bulls and Raiders. And then I found out it was only baseball, which made the hats really unique. But I found some of those. But so I started posting all my come-ups on the internet, and I started like right when Instagram, I guess, was starting off, I started posting like all my pictures of come-ups and people just kept reaching out. I was using hashtags, vintage snapback, all that. And then people were like, hey, can I buy some? Hey, how much is this one? I was like, cool. I started selling on there. And a bunch of people started reaching out to me, including, I think you guys reached out to me like, hey, where's this spot at? And I was like, I'm not gonna tell anybody. You know what I'm saying?
You got to ask. Come on.
No, absolutely. Somebody who doesn't know, is gonna do it.
That's funny. So was your IG handle the same back then?
No, it was my brother made me an Instagram, okay, and it was Danny P69, and I kid you not,
guy.
Yes. I'm like a freshman in high school. I didn't know what 69 was. I was like, oh, it's cool, whatever, 69. And everybody's like, Danny 69. Like, why does everybody keep saying something about it? And I found 69 was like that. So it was pretty funny.
That's so
Shout
funny.
out
I
to
was thinking about you last night, like coming up with like what we're gonna talk about, and I remembered that. I was like, no, he was not always on this handle. He had a different handle before. Yo, that's fucking classic. So, yo, that's like that feeling you're talking about when you're in there, like not you don't want to like let them know you're super stoked, but you're like fucking just fucking pumped inside for that dig. That place sounds rad. Like there's been places like that for us over the years. So like you go in there for like 2 years solid, just and they kept having more, eh?
Probably more than that. So okay, so I kept kept picking out the good stuff and whatnot that was available outside. So this goes back to shout out to my Boneyard boys, Chicago, aka Island Souls and Samuel Snapson.
Hell
If
yeah.
you know. But those guys, I had always looked up to them just because I had watched their eBay and their Instagram. And I love their aesthetic and the way they did things. It was very clean. It was expensive, but the way they made it looked expensive, So like you want to give people your money. People who present things well, I don't know, it's just how it goes. You just want to pay up for it.
It's
But
marketing, man. That's how it works, man. It's like, you curate a nice store, a nice look, a nice aesthetic online, and it demands more money. It's just facts.
that's just how it goes, man. So I had always looked up to them, and I believe Jake, Samuel Snapson at the time, he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, man, I'm really interested in this spot that you've been going to. I was like, I'm willing to pay you X amount, and I'll let you pick some stuff out of my eBay." And I'm like, "Holy shit! Like, this is awesome!" Like he was like, "Whatever I pay, blah blah, you get first dibs." I'm like, "All right, this seems pretty cool, And I thought I'd already cleaned out the place, but I hadn't went in the back. I didn't know what was back there and whatnot. So he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna drive down from Chicago. We're gonna check out the spot. Get you first dibs. I'll bring you some stuff down. I just want to buy some stuff too." I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." I ended up meeting with him and one of his buddies there at the Kentucky store, and they got there a little bit before I did. They started picking things that I wouldn't necessarily pick up, but I was like, okay, this guy knows something I don't. But he was like, "Hey man," he went right off the bat and was like, "Hey, let me go in the back room, blah blah," and ask it, and they're like, "Nah, you can't." I got there and he was like, "Oh, what's up, Danny?"
Give me 1 sec. Hey Beth, can you open the door for DHL? Sorry, keep going. You're good.
So when I got there, they're like, "Oh, what's up, Danny?" Like, "Hey, what's up, man? These are my friends from Chicago. They've seen some of the cool stuff that I bought from you, and they want to buy some of it. Is there any way we can go in the back room?" We're like, "He's got money, I got money. You can trust me." And he's like, "You know what? You're a good customer. Come on back. I know you're gonna spend money with me." Cool. We go in the back. Just piles of clothes and boxes that was just mind blowing. Raiders starter satin jackets, bunch of chalk line jackets, starter boxes, just a bunch of dead stock sports. Oh, Nike galore, Magic
Damn.
Johnson tees, Jordan tees, amazing pieces that I've never seen till this day, like ever again.
That's
and
crazy.
Shit, man. And a lot of it was like, he's like, "Hey, just be careful, it's like a bunch of spider webs, it's all old stock, blah blah." They had a leak or like a flood in the back, and they got rid of a bunch of shit, and some shit was moldy and whatnot, but we found amazing things. And like, Jake and them bought a lot of stuff, they took a lot of stuff back. But even when they left after that, I still kept going back to that spot. And every time I just kept finding more shit,
So they only came the one time, and like how
No.
big did they cash out that time?
I can't even remember how much they cashed out, but they left with a big load in their van or whatever they had.
Yeah. So what are we talking on price? You said $5 hats. What was like starter prices and things like that?
Like starter jackets were like $20, $15.
Damn.
Tees are like $5, $2, and then at some point he was like, "Ah, you can have that, just like random stuff." Had a bunch of shoes as well, New Balances and stuff, just cool runners. Some like NFL boots, like Raiders boots and shit like that. Just some cool shit. And we had asked like, hey man, you got any Jordan? Like I see you have a lot of Jordan stuff. Where are the Jordans at? And we found some boxes that were just empty Jordans. We're like, fuck it, we'll buy those too. You know, OG boxes. We were just buying them. Oh, you can have them, whatever. And we're like, oh, somebody already came and bought all our Jordans out like years ago, and I was like, fuck. So
Probably
that
Japanese or something. Like
no,
they've been
definitely,
scouring, you know.
no, it definitely was. That's what they said. Like, oh, some foreign people came over here and bought it. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like they already know the deal or whatever. But they were leaving all the clothes. Like man, we were finding amazing Nike pieces. Bo Jackson pieces, bunch of Jordan pieces, just good Andre Agassi stuff, just like galore, dead stock, stacks of it.
That's so
Just,
sick.
just to see all that stuff, and then with tags and stuff, it was just so cool. So
It's funny, like when you think, like, obviously the owner of this place was a fucking G, because there seemed like they treated you guys so good, because there is like a hoarder disease that a lot of these people have, that they're so attached to it. Like I don't think we've probably got starters for $20 a few times, but most of the time you go in and they want like retail or something crazy. That's why they still have the shit.
well, at this point, they weren't making money off any of the sportswear and stuff. They were they were screen printing shirts for their local baseball teams and whatnot, like cleats, just baseball gear and whatnot. Like this store, I mean, this place in Kentucky was like tiny. There was like a McDonald's, a Kroger's, and like a few restaurants, and that was it. It was a very small town, and it was like, I think it was like three brothers that owned it, and they had, it was, I guess his dad's or something, but they passed it down to the kids, and they were a lot older too, and they were like, man, we're getting tired of this too. So Jake and them came back another time, bought more stuff, and then like, I don't know, at this time, me and him, we just built a good relationship. He was trying to teach me like, hey, look for this, look for that. So every time I kept going, I'd send him pictures and be like, check this out. What do you think about this? Like, damn, they had more of those. Like, oh, and then he just kept buying shit off me, or we would trade and whatnot. But I kept going back, and then finally he was like, hey, man, we're closing the doors. And I was like, I was like, no, there's still more stuff in there, blah, blah, blah. So he offered me to buy the whole store. He was like, man, take everything. And I was like, what am I going to do with all like this? I would literally need like 5 storage units to put all this, bunch of blanks, bunch of baseball cleats, baseball bats. I would have definitely, now looking back at it, he gave me a good offer for everything. I just didn't know how I was going to sell
Too
everything.
much to deal with. Yeah. So did you go back one last time when he said that though, and do a last dig?
Closed. So yeah, I did that, but so he's like, hey, we're going to close down, blah, blah. Come back. If you want anything, he's like, you can have some of the posters that you've been wanting. I was like, cool. I went up there. I found more stuff. And he's like, hey, all right, man, we're closing the doors. I thought it was my last time there. Then I just kept I was like, man, I want to go back. There's got to be more stuff. And the store was closed. But like I said, we built a really good relationship, and I called him up and I was like, hey, man, I know the store's not open anymore. Is all that stuff still in there? He's like, yeah, it's in there. And I was like, because he told me they were going to tear the building down. I was like, hey, can I still go up there? And he was like, yeah. So he let me go. And what he would do is he would come open the store for me, and he'd lock us in there, and we'd go through we got to go through everything, because we had saw some bootleg Nike prints, and we knew they printed stuff. So we found the screen printing for vintage Nike shit and whatnot. But he never let me buy that stuff, because like, no, I can get in trouble for this and whatnot. I was like, I promise you, I'm not going to do anything with it. But he never let me get it. But he would lock me in the store, and I'd sit in there for like 4 or 5 hours going through everything I could, and I did it multiple times, until finally I was like, all right, man, I think I'm done. He's like, all right, man. And then I went back up there just to go up there just for the hell of it, and the building was gone.
Fuck. That's so crazy.
Man, I went there for years, man. Years.
What a spot, dude. What a spot. That's so rad. It's crazy how like that one spot probably really kickstarted like your your career in vintage, man. Like,
No, absolutely did, man. Like it just like all my friends were like, "Oh, this is really cool." Like, I didn't, to get rid of it fast, like, oh, $20 a tee, $30. Of course, the Jordan and stuff, I'd charge more, but like, it was all sports stuff. And I was selling all that stuff to my friends, and everybody's like, just interested in it. And I'd go to my friend's house, and he'd always have a bunch of people coming through his house. He lived with a bunch of guys, so he always had homies coming through, and I'd be like, hey, I got a box in my trunk. And I'd go to my friend's house, and they just all pick through my stuff.
yeah.
And started buying shit off me. So then this is where Atlanta comes in. So of course, at that time, I'm into sneakers as well. Skateboarding, I was really into the SBs and whatnot. So I started selling sneakers too with it, because people who wanted vintage.
Before we jump onto the Atlanta story, I got one last question for this big story. Did you keep anything? Did you keep like some personals from that place?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
what did you keep?
Oh, so I definitely kept. I kept I kept a lot of hats. I still have a lot of the hats. The
What are we
Raiders.
talking? Like 50, 100, 200?
No, I didn't keep that many. I kept like one of everything for myself.
Okay.
A couple Paisleys, denims, the starter Raiders hats and whatnot. I kept some of those, and then I kept the starter Jordan sweatpants. Dominique. Oh no, I sold the Dominique ones. Magic.
Those are the sick ones with the big picture down the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they
nice.
Were like,
Okay.
I kept the shorts too. I have like Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, Jordan shorts, and then the Magic Johnson pants and Jordan pants, which you still don't see them. You still do.
Dude. We see like a couple a year, maybe.
Yeah. So I definitely kept those. Those are probably the very cool things. And then of course I kept like the starter boxes and whatnot. I keep my hats in them. So that was really cool.
Okay, so hop back into Atlanta here. How did that all come to be?
So Atlanta had always been like my second home as a kid. My dad, my whole family lived in Atlanta for years. Before I was born, my brother and my sister were both born there, and I have a lot of family over there. My aunts and uncles. So I grew up always going down there. Again, it's only a 3-hour drive. Going down there for Christmas, holiday, and then concerts, different shows, stuff like that. So I think I heard about Dunk Exchange before sneaker cons and whatnot. There was a show called Dunk Exchange for the dunk collectors, pretty much. And that's what I was doing. I was like, hey, you know what? I have a bunch of SBs. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm selling. I should probably try one of these trade shows out. It's like $100 a table. I'd watched some videos and stuff and saw that they were doing good and whatnot with their social media. So like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. I go down there, take everything, buy a table, stay with my cousin or something, it'll be a getaway, and make some money. So I did that, and I did really well. I was like, holy shit, people be buying sneakers and buying vintage. I had so much more vintage. I was like, holy shit. I had stock for days, man. I had boxes of shit. I was like, man, if I can just do this like once a month or however, like I can make a living off this, So I started doing a couple of those shows. I did that. I did Sneaker Exit and stuff, and I got my name buzzing in Atlanta. So these shows were like, hey man, I know you're from Tennessee, but if you make the drive, we need vendors, and your stuff is dope. They're like, if you make that drive, I'll give you a free booth. And I was like,
nice.
Like that's all I'm paying for is the gas, and I started doing those a lot, like more frequently and whatnot. And that's how I met Leo, my business partner. He pulled up on me at one of the Dunk Exchange shows, and he was like, dude, he pulled up and he was like, yo, I got some trades. He started buying stuff off me, and they're like, yo, check out this stuff. And he was the jersey guy, man. I hadn't found any jerseys there. I found a bunch of sports stuff, but never jerseys. He had champion jerseys, starter baseball jerseys. I was like, holy shit, this guy's got shit. He's obviously finding stuff too. So me and him just like built a relationship. Every time I was in town, we'd always link up, buy off each other, trade, whatever. have food, just kick it. You know, it was like, dude, you're the
Yeah.
only one that what I do in the city. So me and him started doing those shows. He was Vintage Solutions. I started an account, El Vintage Jefe, the Vintage Boss. Real corny, but whatever.
I remember that one too, for sure.
Yeah. So man, I
And
always
where was he digging? Was he just thrifting more so, or was he finding spots?
both. You know, he was finding spots and he was thrifting a lot, and then he was eBaying a lot. You know, he was really getting the sources on eBay. You know, like notice, like, you know, if you're a good eBayer, you'll like notice, like, oh, if they have one, and then they relist something, you're like, oh, this person has more, and then he'd, you know, send them messages like, hey, do you have more of these? And like, yeah, I actually have a bunch more, and then he'd find people like that. But he had some good stuff. So me and him, we were the only ones at the. He started doing the shows too, and we were the only two that were doing the same thing. And I remember people always getting us confused, like, "Hey, are you Vintage Solutions? Hey, are you El Vintage Jefe?" Like we both like, you know, because we never really showed our face on there too much. We were just selling stuff on there, but we built a really good relationship, and it just took off. But man, I remember me and him did a show at Morehouse College, and we were the only one. There was maybe like 20 to 30 vendors in there. It wasn't very popping, but we were the only two that were doing that same thing. And I remember me and him crushed the show. Like there wasn't that many people, but we made the most money ever because all these college students that had never seen any of this stuff, and just I looked at his booth, I looked at my booth, and we were just consistently just busy, man. And I was like, holy shit, man, this is amazing, you know? After that, we were like, holy crap, like, I can't believe we just did that. Like, there was hardly anybody in there, but we just sold so much, you know, celebrating and whatnot. But I'd always told him, like, bro, we should do a pop-up together, you know, rent out a spot for like a month or a week or a couple of days and do something. And he was like, yeah, we should, man. I kept bothering him, like, dude, let's do something. You're in the city. You know a bunch of people here. I know a bunch of people. I mean, and he was like, yeah, okay. I kept going to Atlanta a bunch of times. Like me and my girl, we would go down there for shows and whatnot. And I built a customer, and I'd hit them up before I was coming down. Like, hey man, I'm coming down. If you guys want to meet up, let's do something. I used to pull up to Lenox Mall and just pop the trunk, and my friend would bring a bunch of people, and they just shop with me, and it was amazing. So I got a really good relationship.
You just show up at the mall? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'd in the parking lot, and I'd like tell my friends like, "Oh, this is where I'm at." He'd bring like 10 people with him, and they were all in the snapbacks and stuff too, and they were paying up because they had got into it. You know, they knew the sports specialties and the starters, so they started buying a bunch of stuff off me. I was like, "Holy shit! I don't even need to do shows. Like, I'm getting a customer base down here." And Leo saw that too. So one day I get a text from him, and I started wholesaling to some people. I started selling a lot to somebody up in Canada. You remember Snapback Goods?
Yeah.
He was
out of
buying.
Toronto, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was selling him a bunch of stuff, which I regret selling. You know what? I can't remember. I don't know why I didn't mention this, but man, I was finding it had like 85 flight suits in there. You know, like
the full one pieces, yeah. Fuck.
Not the full one pieces, but it was like a weird zip up and the shorts for it. And I remember he was like, yeah, he got really stoked about that stuff. And I didn't know they were the 85s. I'm not gonna lie, the suits and whatnot. But he kept buying them and buying them. He's like, yo, well, let me buy more. And I started wholesaling a lot to him and some other big names and whatnot. And so Leo hits me up one day. He's like, hey man, can I buy some stuff off for wholesale? And I was like, you know what, dude? Like, I was starting to get low on my inventory. My eBay was going down. I was like, I didn't have too much more product. You know, I was like, I want this shit to last. You know, I want to sell it myself. And I was like, nah, man, you know what? I'm kind of done wholesaling right now. You know, like I'm down on inventory. I need to sell it off myself. And he's like, okay, cool. I understand. He's like, well, how about this? He hits me up. He's like, yo, so I'm looking at a spot. I know you live in Tennessee. I know you have the product. I know you have the drive and you love to do this. Like, how do you feel about opening up a store with me and my buddy? And I was like, oh, I was like, and you know what's crazy? At this time, too, I was working. I had just got out of high school, and I had my son. I was 18. I was graduated early.
So
Became a
you're not even 30?
no.
Damn, dude.
I'm
Okay.
28. So man, I start right after high school. My buddy that was working at PacSun was like, "Hey, dude, we're getting the Zoomies, man. And I know you just turned 18, blah blah." He's like, "I know you just had your kid. You want a opportunity? I can put you on at Zoomies and start you off as a manager." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, finally some more money, coming in. So I was like, "Cool, I'll do that." I worked at Zoomies for about 3.5 years as a manager. I got fired for some petty bullshit, just messing around. I'm a jokester, and I think what did I do? I told somebody, so you have to have a key to get in to the fitting rooms. And somebody was like, "Hey, man, can I get into the fitting room?" I was like, "Oh, man, I lost the key, bro. You got to crawl under." And he got, and I was, completely kidding, And I guess he got on his knees like, "Dude, I'm just kidding," like he was like, "Oh," he didn't think it was funny, pretty much. Called corporate, blah blah.
He calls corporate for that. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Long story short, my manager is my friend. Like, we're actually home. Like, dude, I fucking hate to do. I walked into work one day. He's like, "Dude, I fucking hate to do this, man, but I have to let you go." And I was like, "Fuck." He's like, "Dude," he's like, and I knew he didn't want to, we were boys. So I was like, "Fuck, man." I was like, "Damn it," I was like, "Fuck," whatever. I was selling clothes. Actually, what's crazy? While I was working at Zoomies, I started getting my clientele up at Zoomies because, I was a manager or whatever, and I would go in there and I would take a bunch of my Instagram pictures in there, like on the floor.
So
I had a
you'd bring stock. You'd bring your stock into work.
Yeah, and I would just take pictures of it and whatnot, and then I started noticing that people were like, "Yo, where's that at?" And I was like, "Oh, this ain't that, bro. I sell this," and I was like, "What?" So people started coming in and like, I'd be like, "Hey, check out my Instagram, blah blah. Check out this," I started building a clientele. A lot of the like football players for UT and the basketball players started knowing me because I was selling sneakers too. So I started selling stuff out of there. I'd let people pick up their orders or whatever there at Zoomies. And so after I left there, my manager knew that I was selling vintage and whatnot. But when he let me go, I remember he's like, "Hey, man, maybe you can, maybe this is a blessing for you. Maybe you can do something cool with your vintage stuff. I believe in you. Like this could be, this could be faith for you. Like this is something that happens for a reason." I was like, "Thanks, bro." He's like, and then I was like, "Fuck, man." So I lost my job. So I started selling, and I was very consistent with listing and posting things on Instagram. And I was like, "Dude, if I can make $100 a day, I'm good." And I did that. I was hitting that goal consistently and whatnot. But then that's when Leo hit me up, like a few months after I lost my job, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like this is God's plan," I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, so he calls me. He's like, "Dude, I'm looking at this spot. It's this much. I know you have inventory. I know you can't be here all the time, but if you're willing to make it work, come down and check it out." Next day, I drive down to Atlanta, have some money in my pocket. I look at the spot. We look at it all together, and it was a women's boutique before that. And they're like, "Hey, if you want all these racks and whatnot," it was ready for a store pretty much. Like, "If you want all the racks and whatnot, give us like $150, $200." Like, sold. Like we don't have the money. We don't have the money to redo a store and all this. So we were like, "Fuck it, we'll work with what we got." So next thing you know, we signed the paperwork and we had a store.
That's
and then
sick. So who's the third partner? His homie?
Yeah, John. It's like his best friend, like growing up as a high school and college. And then I met him, and we all just, every time I'd come in, we'd all go out to eat. We'd all hang out, do stuff together. I got to know him. I was like, okay. He was John is our third partner. He's like the silent guy behind the camera. Doesn't really like to be seen and whatnot. Just does. He's amazing. You know how it is, man.
Oh yeah, totally. You need all types, man,
Yeah.
for sure.
So he was really into the fashion, man. He knew the designer. He knew the Supreme. He knew the Bape really well, and designer like he was ahead of the game for all this stuff. You know, very knowledgeable. And I was like, holy shit, like this guy knows his shit. So I was like,
So I got a question about that. So your store, like, you were one of the first. Obviously, probably got heavily influenced. Did Boneyard have their store at that time?
no.
You were before them. Okay, so you guys right now, you sell sneakers, you sell vintage, and you sell streetwear, right? This is like the new business model that everyone's doing, but you guys were on it like pretty early, I'm thinking, because Versus was like, as far as I remember, like a while ago.
2015.
2015. So like from the beginning, what was your product mix? Were you selling sneakers and streetwear like right from the beginning?
As soon as we started, I mean, we had the sneakers and we had the vintage, the Supreme and stuff. We hadn't got. I think we had like very few products. We we started out with the vintage first, and then once we got enough of the streetwear, we made one little rack of it. It was like a 4-foot rack, you know, with just streetwear. And we're like, well, then that started building up to 2 racks, and that's how it was. That's how we kept it. We kept those 2 full racks of streetwear, but the vintage at the time was doing so well. But I remember we opened up the first day. We had Bankroll Fresh come in, so it was a great start. You know, rest in peace. You know, he's a local Atlanta rapper, but he came in on the first day we ever opened up, and I'm like, holy shit! And man, our friends and whatnot came out. It was amazing, man. I was like, holy shit! I cannot believe like the numbers that we did on our first day. Because we had been working on it for months, man, and you know, it came out really well. Like
Yeah, dude.
I was very satisfied with the way that we did it. You know, it wasn't like a lot of stores nowadays. It's overly like cluttered and whatnot, and we didn't want that, but we wanted to give people that vintage look, like when you walk in, you know. And I think when we opened the store, I was really satisfied with it. And then we just grew and grew and grew, and now we just opened up our newest store about 2 months ago.
So you have
Right.
still the one store, you just moved, right?
So okay, so our small location where we started, we were there for 3 years. After the 3 years, we expanded the store. We broke a wall down, made it bigger. We remodeled it all, did new racks, new floor, made it look a lot classier. You know, because we were just tired of people coming in there and being like, "Oh, this looks like a thrift store. Oh my God, you know, this looks, you know, like this is used clothes." And we're like, "All right, fuck this. You know, we're going boutique style. Wanted to make
Yeah.
it look clean, refreshing, and whatnot." Because we were in those 3 years, man. We were getting a bunch of like celebrities and whatnot coming in. You know, people wanting us to style them, people for stuff for TV shows, just movie sets and stuff like that. So like, man, we need to if we're going to charge these prices, we need to make it look like that, you know, marketing. So we did that, and people were upset about. We had the walls covered when we first opened up for those 3 years, just like, you know, T-shirts, hats on the wall, just posters, a bunch of just a '90s vibe.
Yeah.
So then we went for the boutique style, and people were like, "Oh, you guys changed on us," and we're like, okay, whatever. So we started putting things back on the wall, but we made it look very clean and boutique-ish. So, man, with this new store coming up, we were like, yeah, let's just move to this other store. But then we thought about it, and we were like, you know what? If we move from there, somebody else is gonna come in and do the same thing we're doing because the store is ready to go. It'd be dumb
Yeah.
not, you know, and people will take advantage of that. Like, oh, they already have a reputation. People are still going to come to this location not knowing that it's not here anymore. So
Totally.
he actually decided to keep the store. Our first location now is an event space now. So all of our friends that come in and whatnot, they're all doing something. So now we do like listening parties there, podcasts. We rent it out for people's podcasts, photography, and pop-ups.
Damn,
So
that's sick.
So just because, man, I
That's a
was like,
ballsy move to keep it just so that nobody else could snake it. You know, it's
yeah,
funny you say that because my store in Vancouver is in an old skate shop, and I swear, we've been there like 11 years, dude, or 12 years. People still come in. They're like, "Where's the skate shop?" I'm like, "Bro, we've been here for 12 years." It's
so,
crazy.
we were locked in too for like a great price there that we couldn't beat, man, because we looked for this new store that we're in now. We looked for over a year, just trying to find something in a good location, good price. Parking. Parking is a big thing in Atlanta, just because you have to pay for parking and all that shit.
Yeah, and if you have retail, you want people to be able to like come in, find parking quick. So many people will like if they're looking for parking too long, they're just gonna dip and not even bother.
And that's what was really good about our location. It's East Atlanta Village, it's a little village they call it, but it's a bunch of bars and furniture store and restaurants. It's mainly what it is. But we built our name there, man, and we didn't want to lose that spot because, like I said, somebody's gonna come in and do the same thing. So with our new spot, man, it is 10 minutes away from our other spot, right downtown in Atlanta, right next to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Phillips Arena. So foot traffic there is awesome, man. We've been there for, like I said, 2 months now. Opened. We got it in October, but you fall into errors and you want to get everything perfect. So, man, this new store is.
So how's it been? Like, what's the take? You guys getting the foot traffic you want? Sales are good in the new spot?
People love it, man. We were keeping it on the hush hush for a while, so we didn't put the address or let anybody know what day we were going to open up. So we got the store ready, and we're like, "Fuck it, man. Let's go. Let's drop the address the day before and see how it goes." And we didn't think anything of it. We're like, "All right, let's see." We put it on there the night before. The next morning, I'm like, "Oh, there's no line." I get there early. There's nothing. By the time we open up, we have a line all the way around the block. And I'm just like, holy shit. And what's cool about this new area, there's not a lot of like stores and other businesses there, but there's apartments and condos all above us and across the street. And the whole time we've been working on it, I see everybody taking their dogs out. Everybody's wearing Yeezys, Jordans. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good neighborhood. And man, we opened up and it's been amazing. I feel like we've gotten a lot more love and support from these people than we ever got in those 6.5 years when we were in East Atlanta Village. I mean, the people that live across the street, above from us, next to us, all of them are always bringing in their friends. Like, hey, check this spot out that I have downstairs or across the street. Like bringing in people in all day. And there's more businesses that are coming now. Like there's a tea spot next to us, and they have all the girls coming in there, and they're bringing girls into our store, and it's just been amazing. A lot of people are like, we're the new store in Atlanta, and we're like, man, we were the first store in Atlanta to do this, But
Well, dude,
like,
I'm happy for you, man. Congrats on the success there. That's
yeah,
super
man.
sweet to hear, and the whole timeline of it all. And your brother tells me you want to do a Knoxville store at some point.
I do.
So you think that's in the cards or what?
Absolutely, man. I think this is the year I'm gonna do Knoxville. We were actually
So if you do Knoxville, you'll stay with the partners, do the whole deal, right?
Yeah. So I still live in Knoxville. I'm just kind of tired. I've been doing this. Nobody knows this, but I bought a house here, 7, 8 years ago, the house that I'm in right now. So I never really wanted to live in Atlanta just because I have kids and whatnot. But so living in a good area, it's very expensive, a lot more expensive than.
Yeah, for sure.
So I never really wanted to move down there. I was like, you know what? I'll give it my time and effort. I'll do what I can from Knoxville and whatnot. Because really, I do all the sourcing for the vintage and whatnot. And then my partners are in store all the time. Leo does digging too, but pretty much a lot of that stuff just comes in the store. Not the vintage so much, but the streetwear and the sneakers, it all just comes to us. We have good relationship with people and things come in. But so I'm here every other week. I'm here in Knoxville. I go Knoxville and Atlanta back and forth like no other. But when I go for 4 or 5 days at a time and stay and come back home.
Yeah. So where do you stay? Like, you got a spot you kick it?
I just stay with my homie. My homie has an extra spot, room there or whatever. I just stay there
Yeah. Nice.
wherever. I mean, there's been times where I've stayed at the store. Like that's how it is, man. The dedication, and I know in the long run it's gonna pay off. But I've always thought about like, hey, maybe I should get a roommate and get a spot here, but I really don't want to. I just
Yeah,
don't
fair,
want
man. I mean, you're smart. Like, I live out of the city because of my kids. We live in a great neighborhood. Obviously, like, your family's there in Knoxville, which I kind of touched on. But your father owns a restaurant that you grew up in, and you're working at to this day during the
Absolutely.
weeks, which I think is fucking rad. I've always wondered, like, the growing up in the restaurant world vibe, because I didn't. My dad was like a businessman selling clothing, doing that kind of thing. So like after school, you just like would go to the restaurant, kick it. They're making you food, like you're hanging out. Like it's a super family restaurant vibe.
Yeah, I grew up in it. So my dad started, like I said, he started in Atlanta. He opened up his first restaurant in the late 80s and whatnot. Doing all that, he had a fall through with his partner. He had a business opportunity here in Knoxville, so he moved us all up here. I mean, I wasn't born yet. So my brothers and my brother and my sister, and then we came here, and my dad started his restaurant here as a manager, the main manager or whatever, and then eventually he bought into it. And my dad had one restaurant, and then they opened up another one, and that's when he opened it a year before I was born. So my dad, this new restaurant that I work at right down the street, man, it's a staple here in Knoxville. We're the
Well,
oldest.
what's it called? What's it called?
Monterrey.
Okay.
Monterrey.
I give you my word. One day I'm coming to your restaurant. Guaranteed.
Please do, man. I mean, when Jake and them were, anytime I have homies, then I'm like, dude, come on by. Come by. You got to come by. When Jake and them, Boneyard Boys, they would always, when they were in Knoxville, like, come eat. We'd come eat. It's like, it's on the house,
That's
But,
so rad. Okay, I got a question about this. So we need, I mean, you can share with us what you want or not, but we need one family secret. Like, give us like a recipe or something, like something from the restaurant world. Like, you got any, like, yeah, you got a recipe you can share with us?
no, not really, man. I mean, just, man, our food. Okay, so my dad has opened and closed and owned a ton of restaurants. Where meaning like, some have failed, some have been fucked up with business partners. It's been a chaos
Yeah.
doing, for years. I saw my dad open and close restaurants like it was nothing. I mean, I'm 28. I've definitely seen him do it with like at least 10 restaurants.
Wow. And like just riding the tide. Some do well, some don't.
Yeah.
Shit hits the fan, you got to close, whatever.
And he did them out of the city too. He did here, he would do Chattanooga, he did Indianapolis, like he would be scattered everywhere. I was like, damn, so that motivated me. I was like, if my dad can do that and be not there all the time, I can do that too, But I grew up, like seeing my dad like just work, hustle. My dad migrated over here from Mexico, both of my parents, like with nothing.
Yeah.
I have stories of my dad, like my dad lived in Texas to Cali, and then he lived in Chicago for years. My dad was an ice cream man. They used to call my dad paletero, ice cream man. He used to push the little buggies around,
No shit.
Yeah. Out in freezing cold, and my dad got his first car out there, got stolen, and he's like, man, fuck this, man. This shit is dangerous. So then he moved to Atlanta to do all that. So this new restaurant, man, I mean, this restaurant that I work at it turns 30 years old this year.
And you call it the new one.
No,
30 years is a good run.
30 years.
The restaurant business is like no other. Like I spent time before I got into doing what I do now. I always worked in restaurants just because of the industry. Like I was snowboarding all the time. So like it was easy to get jobs in the restaurants. But the restaurant grind is hard. Obviously, you know that with your dad. Like you don't leave it. You're there till it's closed. Like you're there early prepping. Like that shit is a serious grind.
Yeah, and you gotta keep all your employees happy and shit too, man. Like that's serious. It's a headache, man. I saw my dad go through it, you know. I didn't get to see my dad a lot like when I was a kid. I was always skating. I'd come home from school, I'd see him for like 2 hours, we'd eat, and he'd go right back to work. By the time he got home from work, I'm already asleep. So I didn't get to see him a lot, you know, and I was salty about it as a kid, but when I got older, I was like, yo, I respect it. You know, I see why he was doing this. Like, if it wasn't for that restaurant, man, I wouldn't have the drive and the motivation and the work ethic that I have now. So I'm very thankful for that restaurant, you know. And I know if anything fails in life, I always have that to go to, you know, the
Yeah.
restaurant business.
Well, it's good you appreciate it. It's true. You get a good work ethic from grinding it out in a restaurant.
Bro,
For
I mean,
sure.
I remember I used to go there as a kid, and my dad would put me to work. You know, I'd I'd clean dishes, I'd clean tables. I did anything. I learned everything to do except the cooking part. I don't touch the cooking. I can cook in there, but I don't know
Yeah.
the recipes and all that
Okay.
because it's a big
I'll have to
process.
get that from your brother then.
Yeah.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you a quick message from our sponsor, BidStitch, at bidstitch.com, okay? You can sell your vintage on BidStitch with no commission fees, okay? It is a free platform to sell your product. App is in development right now. Go check out the desktop. Go check it out if you want to get all kinds of news and see what's going on in the vintage community. But also, if you're planning on starting an event or running any kind of flea market or multi-seller event, we have resources. We will help you get it done. So hit us up at BidStitch. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. So this is a good one here. So you are currently serving during the week when you're there, which again, I want to touch on this too. Like from what I see, and your brother confirms this, you're a good dad. You're there for your kids. You spend a lot of family time, right?
Mhm.
You know, and I appreciate that. Your brother says you do the off the back restaurant challenge. You literally will go up to your fucking tables while they're eating and ask to give them free food. Like, yo, let me comp your meal if I can grab your t-shirt and I'll give you one of our restaurant tees to go home with. I was
Oh
like, yo,
my
this
God.
is legit right here.
I don't think I've ever really told anybody about that. But yes, I am. I mean, I've been doing off the back challenges for fucking 10 years, man. Off that head challenges, you know, when it was
Hell
snap,
yeah.
you know, I'd buy hats off people's back. I mean, off their head.
Well,
And
that's sick. You already said that's how you found your first dig was legit and off the head challenge, right? Straight up.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll never forget that, you know. But yeah, man, I've definitely in the restaurant, I definitely do. I'm not shy, man. I'll come out and say it, but I'll say it in like the coolest way I can, though. And be like, hey, man, like I'll notice, like, okay, I've gotten a lot of shirts in there, man. Fuck, I got a good 3D emblem off this guy, man. He had the 3D emblem where the Reaper was biting the girl's nipple off.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, sick one.
yeah, that was a really good one. But man, I was just like, hey man, that's a really cool shirt, man. Like my dad used to have that shirt. Like I'll just make up a story to make it seem to I was attached to that.
Yeah, and like build the repertoire with the customer and kind
I
of
would
like
never let them know that I'm buying and I'm selling this. You know, never let anybody know that because they'll fucking charge you. Because then they'll look into it and see what it is. But I'll definitely be like, hey man, like, is there any way you would sell that shirt, man? I know that sounds weird, man, but my dad had that shirt, man. I would love to give that to him. I remember it as a kid because my mom, you know, she got really mad about it, you know, and they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, I'll buy your food. Once I say I'll buy your food, they're like, meaning
done.
I'm not buying the food.
Margaritas on the house. Let's go. Take off your shirt.
I've done that a few times, though. I'm not gonna lie. I did a Chucky T-shirt off somebody, and the most recent one I did about 4 or 5 months ago. I did a Cypress Hill off somebody's back,
Yeah.
and I was like, I always peep it out first. I walk by and I'm like, is it old? Is it vintage? Single stitch? Okay, yes it is. And then I was like, hey man, my dad went to that tour. You know, like. Any way I can get that shirt from you, man? I'll buy your food. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Like, I don't have another shirt. I'm like, I'll give you a Monterey shirt, dude. Don't worry.
Yo, that's so legit. Fucking super G for doing that. I love that story. You know, anybody else who did an off the back challenge while they're serving at a restaurant, definitely getting fired, FYI.
Yeah,
But you're in
absolutely.
with the owner, so you're good. But let's put this out there as a challenge to listeners, okay, guys? We know you guys all love to do the off the back challenge, but let's see you do it in a restaurant. Go up to the table next to you and go buy somebody's shirt off their back while they're eating dinner. Buy them a round of drinks. See what happens, and if you succeed, tag us. We want to know.
Yeah, and also, man, like, you know, it's a very family oriented restaurant when you come into my into our restaurant, because it's my dad and my uncle who own it. And my uncle has 3 kids that work there, and it's me and my brother. So it's mostly family. And my mom used to work there and whatnot. My dad and my mom just recently retired, but it's all family. It's all cousins, uncles, whatnot in there. So it's a really good vibe. But it's a really family oriented restaurant, like I said. So I know them by names. They know me by name. Like, it's a cool vibe. But a lot of people know what I do there since I've grown up there. You know, people have seen me grow up literally since a little kid, bussing tables to serving, you know?
Yeah.
So now, you know, I won't, you know, I know a lot of people. I'm like, hey man, like, I'll tell them, I'm like, if I see them with a shirt or something, I'm like, hey man, if you have more of those, let me know. And I've had many customers bring me in shit, man. NASCAR is huge here. So there was like a couple that every time they would come in, they'd always have NASCAR all over prints. Every time. And I was like, hey, do you have any shirts you would get rid of? Like, I'll buy some. Like a month later, she would come in and give me a stack of shirts. I'm like, here, I don't want these smelling like cigarette and shit. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, well, she's like, how much you want for them? I was like, don't worry about it. She's like, all right, cool. I'll be like, hey, Manny, don't charge them for their check. You're like, okay, I got you. And just they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm like, cool, thank you so much.
That's legit, dude.
I've had a lot of customers bring me t-shirts in. A lot.
Yeah, that's so sick, dude. I love that fucking story, man. So it pays. So keep working the restaurant as long as you can, man.
And also,
the next
too, man,
shop.
like, if people like buy, a lot of my friends here locally, if they like, you know, they see us post something on Instagram or our merch versus merch or whatever, I always make it Monterey a destination to meet. Always.
Yeah.
If I'm buying something off Craigslist, if I'm buying something off, you know.
Oh, like you put it in like the location on the tag?
No. I just like, hey, where do you want to meet? I was like, hey, can you meet at Monterey? And then I'll try to bribe. I'll even bribe them with free food. Like, hey, if you come here, I'll give you free food. You know. So shout out to Monterey, man. I have love for it.
Free food works, man. Okay, so I want to talk about your brother also told me. Well, I saw on the show too. We'll get into the show next because everybody wants to hear about the show. Super dope Netflix show, Swap Shop that you're on. But you're also into toys, right?
Yes, I am.
So your brother said you're a big Barney fan. Shout out Barney, throwing you under the bus there.
When I was a kid.
So tell us like about that, and not about Barney, but about collecting toys, like what you look for. You know, you guys, I guess it seems like you sell it in the store too.
Yeah. So what really got me into the toys was really just having a son. You know, my son's 10 years old. I remember me going to the flea markets and finding toys and whatnot as a kid. And as I got older, I realized like, hey, these are vintage. They're probably worth some money. So I started looking into toys, and they definitely had resale value. And I started putting them in the store as displays. And people always ask, hey, is this for sale? Is this for sale? Blah, blah. And I was like, no, it's not for sale. No. And then I was like, you know what? I started finding more of it. And I was like, you know what? I could probably sell this stuff too. You know, things that go with the vintage clothing. Like what we sell in the store is like pop culture toys. You know, like we have like the whole Space Jam set from '96, everything. And I'm real particular about buying things too. It has to be, of course, if I'm selling it in the store, it has to be in box for most of the part. Like most of the time, everything is in box. And I like everything in pristine condition. But I started buying toys, and it was just stuff that went with it. You know, the Dennis Rodman toys, the Space Jam toys, the Home Alone doll, just movie Terminator 2, the Mask toys, like things that I grew up watching and seeing. And my son started getting into it because I went to my mom's house and I used to collect Dragon Ball Z toys very heavy as a kid. I wanted everything and all that. So I went and went to my mom's, and my mom had all that stuff, and I gave that all to my son. And then me and him started buying Dragon Ball Z toys, finding them. And I kept finding cooler shit. And I found out about other movie toys and musician toys and whatnot, and putting it in the store and selling it. So I was like, then I realized that my whole storage unit is filled up with toys and sneakers. I'm like, holy shit! How did I got carried away with it? You know, once I saw something, I was like, I have to have it. And then I started going. I don't just go to sneaker shows and vintage shows. I go to toy shows too.
Yeah,
you know, because toy shows, I'm putting you guys on this. Toy shows, you can meet people who have this stuff, the T-shirts and the whatnot. You know, like I found like one year I went to a toy show and this guy collected horror toys, which are your money. Horror toys, horror anything goes for money. But he had horror toys, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna shoot my shot." I was like, "Do you have any horror tees?" Yeah, here, take my phone number. Fucking got a shitload of great stuff off the guy. Just Halloween tees, Scream, Freddy Krueger, all this shit off him. So I'm putting you guys on. People who have toys have shirts too. You got to think about them. They're nerds just like us with clothing.
Well, yeah, legit tip. It's like, you know, you got your comic book T-shirts from the comic store. You know, you get your like movie T-shirts from the fucking VHS rental place, Blockbuster, whatever. So that's like, it makes total sense. These people are going to have the shit. You don't just find them at like the mall. Okay, so I got a toy quiz for you. Give us your top 5 or so like Grail toys that like you'd be just hyped to find.
Oh man!
Or things that you know like would crush in the store.
So my wife recently got me my Grail toy, which was an original Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way. That was
I don't even know what that is.
You never seen Jingle All the Way, the movie? With Arnold Schwarzenegger? The Christmas
Yeah, okay.
movie.
I was gonna say Arnold. I remember it vaguely. Yeah.
But the whole movie is about him trying to get a toy, and it's a Turbo Man. And I didn't know that they actually made a Turbo Man toy until like years later, and I was like, holy shit, I gotta find one of those. And I think last year I bought some storage units, and I found 3 of them loose, and they still go for money, like $100 loose for a figure. But I was like, man, I have to find I have to have it in the box. I have to have it in the box. And my wife got it for me for Christmas. It's like a $300 toy.
Nice. So obviously, like this was a Christmas movie that came out, and they made these toys to go with it as like a release. Yeah, that's sweet. So you buy storage units too?
Yeah, I have.
That's crazy. Like do you have to go to the auctions, or would you only buy one that you like knew was good?
So I've bought storage units as well, but I've definitely go to auctions as well. Look them up. One of my friends used to work for a storage unit, and he would always try to put me on and whatnot. So I went to a few of those, but Facebook Market and whatnot, some guy was like, hey, I have a storage unit full of stuff. I'd go to those. And then at my storage unit too, I'm on call. If a storage unit is going out or whatever, they call me and they tell me to, hey, come down here and look at it, or we have pictures of it online. At this new storage unit that I'm in, I've never found anything.
Yeah. That's a hard game. It's like, it's super hit or miss, man. I know some people that do it, and like they come up, but the competition's fierce now on them, I feel like.
Yeah.
So people are overpaying for these lockers that could just be total garbage, right?
Yep. Don't want to lose any money on that.
No. Okay, so let's talk about the show. It's super rad that you guys got on the show. First of all, I want to know how that happened. The show is called Swap Shop, and the theme of the show is that there's a radio station where you live in Tennessee that actually like people call in and they can say like, yo, I got a barn full of shit that I want to sell. So anybody come down, they'll tell the address. Or adversely, someone will call in and go like, I'm looking for a '78 Corvette or whatever, and then that
Yeah.
person can try to find something. So from the sounds of it, this radio station's been on the air for a long time.
Long time. So it was definitely something that was like before the Craigslist, before the Facebook and whatnot. People could sell whatever they want on there. Or you could be like, hey, I have a restaurant, it's going out of business, come take everything. Hey, I have a sports store, come get everything.
So how obviously now this show is based on a few groups of people, including you and your partners, and a bunch of other people, and they all like listen to the show and then go out on digs, right? So the first question I have about this is, did you listen to this radio station like a long time ago? Like, did you know about it? No. Okay. So give us the lowdown of how this show came to be. Well, how you came to be on the show.
So my friend locally here had put me onto it. They're like, hey, there's this show that's going on. They need people to go on it, blah, blah. But I was like, and it didn't make sense because she sells vintage too. So I was like, why aren't you being on it? And they were like, they need minorities on there.
Okay.
So I was like,
and they
cool.
straight up, it's just like, they'll just tell you straight up, like they need minorities.
They told me straight up. So I was like, all right, cool. Give me my phone number and let's see if we can do something. They reached out to me. I didn't think it was real, to be honest. I was like, this is probably some bullshit because they weren't very, let's say, they weren't communicating that well. You know, I was like, one day I'd get a call. They're like, I'll call you tomorrow. I wasn't getting it and whatnot. So I was like, all right, whatever. And so finally we did like a Skype or something like this, like a video call. And after I got off that phone call, I was like, yo, this is fucking legit. Like, this is really for Netflix and whatnot. They're like, yo, so Netflix bought this idea for the first season. And we heard about what you do. We heard, you sell clothes, toys, all this, and we want to get you on the show. I was like, cool. So I ran it by my business partners and they were like, dude, let's fucking do it. Are we getting paid? What's the thing? I'm like, bro, let's just do this, man. Like, if this is going to be on Netflix, like, fuck the money. This is going to be great publicity for us. Like, I don't care if I get hate, if, it looks stupid or whatever. Like, this is going to benefit me in the long run.
It's funny you say that because that's, as somebody in the game or scene, like, that always goes through your head. Like, what a bunch of fucking guys out there are going to hate on me for going on TV and talking about this or that or fuck. It's like, there's always going to be haters, but yeah, okay.
No,
keep.
Absolutely. And I think there still is some haters even after the show. Like, I read some comments and people were like, oh, he told the game, oh, well, it's vintage is over, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, this is good for all of us. Like, take it as a W, not a L, and don't be a fucking prick about it.
Yeah, like you're bringing awareness to, like, say, snapbacks and vintage to a huge audience that might not have known and now will be customers for all these other people that are bitching at you about doing it. It's like, It's ridiculous.
And it's, like I said, it's only making the community bigger. It's only making it better for all of us. Yes, it's making it harder, but guess what? Get up and work harder. It's all that should do is motivate you to go harder. You want to find this shit? Go out there and find that shit. You got plenty of sources. You can come up off people's back, yard sales, estate sales, travel for it, man. Like, when I wasn't working, I was going in and out. I was going to North Carolina. I was going to South Carolina. I was going to Kentucky. I was going to Virginia. I was going everywhere. And you know what? I always found something. I had many come-ups, stores that I found a lot of dead stock.
Yeah. And this game was never easy. This game is not meant to be easy. You got to work hard in this game, just like any other career path you choose. Success comes to those who put in the work, man.
Absolutely.
In any field. So now you guys are talking. This show is kind of like, you're thinking now the show is like more real, and keep going on this story.
And then, so they literally told me flat out, they're like, hey man, I heard you're Mexican and I heard your business partners are black. And I was like, yeah. They're like, well, we need minorities for the show. And I was like, damn, we're just going to come out and say it like that? I was like, cool. I've never take my Mexicanness to advantage, Put on. So we got it. You know, we got it. They interviewed everybody for it to see who they were gonna pick for the casting. We got it obviously, and they loved us. You know, I didn't know what to expect from it. You know, I didn't know any of the other people that were in it. I didn't get to meet the people that were on the show. You know, people always ask me, you know, do you know them? Did you all this? Like, no, we filmed everything individually. You know,
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was very
Makes
fun.
sense.
So yeah, so we got the gig. They explained everything to us. Like I said, I'd never heard about the show, but I got the concept. So I was like, okay, so it's like a Storage Wars, American Pickers kind of vibe or whatever. I thought it was really cool. But the guy who produced the show or whatever, director, he did Counting Cars and he did Impractical Jokers. So I was like, those are both pretty good shows. Like, you know, they're not like too corny, but they're corny, but they're not too corny, you know? So I was like, all right, this guy's going to do a good job of it. So we filmed like 8 to 10 episodes, I want to say. And of course, I was like, which one's going to be on there, what not? They're like, okay, so Netflix bought 1 season of it. I was like, and if it does well, they'll do a second season. But we filmed all this before COVID started. And then COVID happened and it slowed everything down. So I was like, man, this show's not going to come out. You know, it was like a 2-year process to do all this. And also like in the show too, like when I was naming prices and whatnot, the market was just everywhere with it, especially by the time it came out, you know, because when COVID started, you know, that Instagram lives, you know, t-shirts were fucking skyrocketing. Jordan 1s were skyrocketing. It was, you know, it was crazy. And I was like, damn it, I don't want any of these prices to be wrong or be different by the time the show starts, which it definitely did. But
Totally. But almost in a good way, because you told like back to earth prices when they went fucking through the roof prices. So you're not like giving away, you know, any crazy information. But I mean, so they filmed 8 episodes, you're saying? So they have backlogs of more shit.
mm-hmm.
Damn. And like that first day on set, like give us the lowdown. Was the first thing you actually filmed the Jordan 1 episode?
No, we filmed the second season. Okay, so I don't know why, but they split it into 2 seasons and they didn't tell us that. Because it was originally supposed to be 12 episodes first season. And we didn't even know when it was going to come out, man. I was like, when the fuck is this show going to come out? I talked to the producer and I was like, hey, man, when's the show coming out? Like, oh, they had told me it was going to come out this summer right now. And then they changed it and they changed it again until finally like, hey, the show's coming out, blah, blah. I forgot what day it came out, but it was like, I was like, holy shit, you know, that's like next month. So it felt unreal when it was like, finally it's going to come out. And we had never seen anything.
And you obviously had an NDA. You couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, I was not allowed to talk about it. That was in the contract. So I was keeping everything on the hush because I had taken a bunch of pictures and I wanted to post things so bad, but I wasn't allowed to. So people were like, when this shit came out, they're like, holy shit, what the fuck? When did you do this? It was like, I wasn't allowed to talk about it, you know?
Yeah. So back to the nitty gritty. First day on the set, they're like, okay, we got this lined up. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to go see this picker, blah, 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 whatever happens. And like, how did you feel that first day being on camera? Like, were they pretty chill about letting you flow with it? Or were they kind of like, do that again, take that again, like cut, let's go again? Like, how did that flow?
So the first day was just, it was weird. It was definitely weird. You know, I've never been like on camera like that to do anything, but I'm not shy or anything. So I was like, man, I just got to like go with the flow and whatnot. And they didn't tell me too much what to say. They just kind of like say this, but say it in your own words, like, or really do this, because those are real digs. We filmed a bunch of digs, but like, to be honest, the shit that we were finding just wasn't that cool. I was like, this isn't going to get anybody's attention. You know, before we did everything, we did an interview and like, what are the things that you would find that are really cool? And I was like, 85s, you know, mosquito heads, rat tees, rock tees, fucking these toys, that toy, these shoes. Like, I just kind of was pretty specific on what was going to be cool to find on the show that was going to get the people's attention and make people want to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So we did we filmed a bunch of them, but nothing was really that cool until finally I was like, dude, I didn't like how things were going. Okay, after the first one, second one, I felt like a lot more comfortable with it. So I started getting better at it to the point where I was like kind of telling the producer kind of what to do and what we should do. And he liked all my ideas. So he definitely let me go with my own flow, which I really like and appreciate that, because before we did the show, before I signed any paperwork, I called Slobby and I was like, hey, man, I got this opportunity. What do you think? What should I do? And he's like, man, just be strict on like, don't make them look like a fool, because he was telling me like, he didn't like a few of the things they put in the show that made him look weird or whatever. So like, just don't.
Oh, so he would have preferred to have like a right of refusal for certain things on how he was portrayed.
Mm-hmm. Because he said like one of the scenes it makes him look like a pervert or something, and I was like, oh, that's fucking lame. He like, just don't let them fucking make you look like a tool or a fool. And I was like, all right, you know. But and the producer was mad cool with me like doing whatever. I kind of cursed a little too much, so he was like, just stop cursing, because I'd be like, oh shit, you know, like shit like that, you know.
Yeah, as you do, normal day to day.
Yeah.
So did you? Obviously, you got paid. You don't have to tell us exactly what you got paid, but was it a structure like? Will you tell us what you got paid?
It was hourly. It wasn't much. It was
okay.
It was what a good job is now. Like, it's an all right job. It wasn't nothing.
And then
crazy.
Was there incentives for kickback later, or like how does that work?
They pay. I mean, they definitely pay for everything. So John and Leo, when they were coming into Knoxville, because it was all, we filmed one episode in Atlanta. We filmed it in the store, but that never came online. And in the store was a mosquito head, which that episode never showed. But Leo was like, dude, we got to take advantage. Leo is not a driver. He won't even drive 2 hours. So he was taking flights, man. He was flying from here. He's taking 30-minute flights.
Yeah, he's like, yo, first class, fly me in. I need to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, like full meal deal. Let's go.
Yeah, they would pay for everything. You know, if you wanted to stay here for a couple of days, they'd pay for everything: food, hotel, car, rental car, whatever. I think one of the week that I went to Atlanta, we were there just filming for one day, but that was my week to be in Atlanta. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be in Atlanta, and I'm gonna stay those few days. Can you guys pay for that? And they paid for like a full week at a nice ass hotel for me to stay in. So that was really cool. The pay was whatever.
So is there like, you guys filmed a bunch, so there might be a third season that's already been filmed?
Yes.
Is there going to be a third season? Someone was asking.
Nobody said anything. I didn't even know about season 2 until I go on Netflix, and it was like February, blah, blah, Swap Shop season 2. And I'm like, what the fuck? Nobody's telling me anything. So I hit up the producer and I was like, is there another season? Are we on it? And he was like, yeah, you guys are on one episode or whatever. And I'm just like, why the fuck didn't you guys tell us? You know?
So was it good for the store? Like, did you guys see a bump in traffic and shit?
Man, you know what popped off the most? So we got a bunch of Instagram followers, but really, man, our Facebook page. DM. I mean, man, we got a bunch of messages of people just sending us shit, sending pictures of shit, telling us they saw us on the show from all over the world, you know. But in the store, man, we got a lot of foot traffic. Till this day, people are still coming in like, hey, we saw you on Swap Shop. And what's cool is that we got a different clientele for it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because that show, yes, it is a bunch of rednecks and country people on there and whatnot, which, like I said, I didn't know. I never met anybody else. I did an episode with the guy from the comic book store where we buy out. This episode isn't on there, but we go to some guy's house and he's selling comic books and toys, and I bought a Michael Knight car with a little figure in it for the store. I bought that. and then he comes in and buys comic books, but that wasn't seen. But damn, I
Well,
just lost.
maybe in future episodes. Yeah, and that's the point. Like you said before, it's like to get it out there to a wider audience. Obviously, huge promo for the store, and that's like so the payoff as far as hourly pay doesn't really matter as long as you're reaping the benefits later on, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like we got people like I mean, bro, I mean, I have people that had sent it to me from Mexico, like watching it in Spanish. And
Wow.
my wife is Russian, so like all her like Russian family was watching it in Russian, and like people were tagging me watching it in Japan and all this shit. And I was like, holy shit, this is really big, you know. So we got a lot of fan love online and whatnot, and orders online as well. Because really on our website we just carry our merch, our store merch. So we definitely saw a gain in the merch sell a lot.
That's
But people,
that makes good sense. And that stuff, like, as anybody in the vintage business knows, we only can sell what we find, and you're limited to what you can sell. But if you can make merch and sell your own store stuff, it gives you like a whole nother revenue stream that is obviously easier to replenish.
soft goods are money, man. It's good money. Um, very very blessed for that, man. But man, yeah, we got a bunch of people, like I said, still till this day, and then going to the sneaker shows. People were like, hey, can I take a picture with you? Working at the restaurant, they were able to put my dad's restaurant in there. We got foot traffic from that. Hey, we saw you guys on Swap Shop, blah blah. Like,
That's
oh,
so sick.
never been
Have
here.
you guys, has the restaurant ever been on like diners, drive-ins, and dives or anything like that,
No,
or other shows?
no.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
So we got to give a shout out to the show. It's called Swap Shop, guys. Go on Netflix. I was kind of worried because I was like, when Slobby's show came out, Slobby's World, they didn't allow it to be, because Canada and America have different Netflix. Like the shit that's available is different. But
Really?
yeah, so Slobby's World was not available in Canada, but Swap Shop is available in Canada, and apparently it's available in Mexico and all over the world. So go
Yeah.
watch it.
That's what took them a long time to do too. Is just uh, change the dialect and whatnot, the languages and whatnot. That was a big hassle. That I do remember them telling me that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're gonna jump into some Instagram questions. Okay,
Okay.
this comes from BigPapa.jd. Daddy Danny, what's the best thing to get from your folks' restaurant?
Ooh, man. All right. I'm gonna give you a few. I'm gonna put you guys on a few dishes. So my favorite right now is the Camarones en la Diabla. It's deviled shrimp. So it's shrimp cooked with pico de gallo, cayenne pepper, and then you put a little bit of cheese dip on top, rice, beans, salad, tortillas. Amazing.
Damn, I didn't eat breakfast. I'm getting hungry right now.
We also have our signature dish called the Pollo Monterrey. So it comes out on a skillet. It comes out on a skillet like fajitas. It's grilled chicken, chorizo, which is like a Mexican sausage with spinach, cheese sauce on top. So it comes out sizzling, rice and beans, tortillas. Amazing. And our carnitas are delicious, which is the pork. Chile verde, which is pork cooked with our homemade green sauce. Amazing.
So good, dude. Oh.
Oh, I could go on for days, man.
Okay, well, we'll stick with those three. Those are good answers. So everybody, wedding in Knoxville. Is it, how far outside of Knoxville is it? Is it in town?
Yeah, it's in town.
Okay, cool. Okay, next question is coming from Christopher Perez 02. Who inspired you to create verses?
Inspired. I mean,
Sorry, is that like a relative of yours? Is that?
Yeah, that's my nephew actually. Who inspired me? I would say like my dad. Starting his own business at a young age and hustling and grinding to see where he's at and where he started. It was definitely my dad. I've always wanted to start my own business, so shout out to my dad.
Shout out to Pops, grinding it.
Yeah, man, came from
Always.
nothing. My dad got deported back to Mexico. Came back like
no shit.
Yeah.
Good for him, man. I'm sure he's proud of you guys.
Oh, for sure, man. And you know what? My dad never really went to the store too much, but he went to the grand opening of the new store, and he was just like, "Holy shit! I did not know this was you were
Really?
on this level." You know, and it was it was a real proud dad moment for him to see that. It meant a lot to me. I was like, "Dad, you got to come to the grand opening." So
That's so
very
cool, man. How have they watched the show? I'm assuming they watched the show.
Yeah, we did a little premiere here at my house with my family. I was like, man, I didn't watch it. I was like, if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna watch it with my family. You know, it took me like a week. Like it came out, but I was like, man, I don't want to watch it. I'm gonna look, watching yourself on TV is weird. And then they put me on the fucking cover of it, which was super weird. They didn't tell me anything like that either. But I go to Netflix and I'm like, holy shit, this is my face on the
It's the
cover.
minority status. They're like, we need you, right? We need you front and center.
I think they did a good job though, because I'm holding the pair of the 85, so it's like, you can
That resonates with a lot of people, right?
exactly.
And that's
So
like, yeah. Okay. So talking about the 85s, we got to ask. I watched it. That's like the best episode, I think, because it's like more closely connected to like what we do and like that real feel of excitement that when you find shit, right? As far as like from a dealer's perspective, right? Because you guys go, you get the call, you go see this lady. It looks like it's like in her basement or something. She's got a starter box of hats that's like all looks like somebody's collection of Raiders hats, because it was all different Raiders hats, right? Which is believable because you're like, okay, somebody could have ditched their collection. Then you guys go and you dig through, so you find 185 Jordan #1, and then you're like, shit, where's the other one? We got to find the other one. I hope it's here. Which I was thinking you weren't gonna find it, because that's happened to us before. Like there's oftentimes you find one shoe.
that's happened to me plenty of times, and people don't know that. But you know what? I'm still bought that shoe, even if it's just one.
Oh yeah, one shoe is great display, except it doesn't have too much value. But and then you find the second shoe, and you're like, score. And then she's like, yo, give me $50, and you guys were like, no, we're gonna give you 300, and you guys were saying that you would be happy paying up to 500. Which again, this is like before they skyrocketed in the last 2 years, but
Right.
so a lot of questions here. Like, how legit was that dig? They obviously set it up because they have to know where you're going beforehand, but did that girl really have no clue what those were, or what's the story here about this situation?
We did not know what they were, but I'm gonna explain everything here.
Okay.
So like I said, we film all these episodes, right? I don't feel too satisfied with them. I don't think they're that cool. I don't feel like this is gonna grab the audience's attention and whatnot. So I threw that idea at the producer, like, look, dude, if you really want to catch somebody's eye, you have to have a grill in this show. So that episode, I filmed all those episodes. That is the only one that is staged. Okay, so those are. I'm being honest. I know some of y'all and a lot of people asked me if it was real. I told them it was real. I'm sorry, but I had to keep it going. But
the truth comes out on the Vintage and Stuff podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny. I like you just straight up. That was staged. Okay, so
but
how did it? But she didn't know the shoes, or were they like, here's the shoes, you have to pretend to sell them to these people?
So I told them so that is a real story. So it's really just a reenactment of what really happened. So it's a lie, but it's not a lie for the Jordan ones.
Yeah,
that really did happen to me. So for all you haters, it's partially real. Okay,
it's a reenactment. Like, when you see like a courthouse scene, they're like, we couldn't film in the courthouse, but we're going to give you a reenactment. that's what we're at with this.
It was minus the hats. The hats were just the throwing in there because they're grills, But the shoe, that shit really happened, and this girl really sells. She really does sell clothes and whatnot, and she didn't know what they were. We didn't know anything. They just kind of. I gave them the material. It's just go in there, find what you can. you know?
Yeah.
So we didn't know that was all going to be there. We just kind of did it. And then we're like, fuck, we found one shoe and like, there's got to be another one, obviously. And it was, I told them a whole story. So found one. We really looked for it. We fucking finally found it. And everything else was real. Like that's really what happened in real life. Like the lady didn't know what she had. She gave me a small like amount. She's like, give me $50 or something. But I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm doing you wrong. I really paid $300 for him. That was
Good
a
for
real
you,
story.
man. Good for you.
And because I felt like I saw that person like struggling, and I felt bad, like I was taking advantage of them. And I wanted people to realize that, doing good deeds like that is fucking cool. Like I bought in t-shirts off homeless people and I'd be like, here, bro, here's $50, just to do a good deed, to see
And that shit, that's karma, man. That shit comes back to you in spades. Put good energy into the world and it comes back. So I think
exactly.
you're right on that.
So when we did that, I felt good about it. Like I said, it wasn't, but everybody, who watched the show, like, for example, I went to ThriftCon. ThriftCon just passed Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was there and people were like, oh, let me take a picture with you. People were taking pictures with me and whatnot, showing love. And they always bring up that scenario. Like, hey, man, I really like what you did with that lady and you paid up for it instead of getting her, And I was like, dude, I appreciate that, just being real, because that's how I work, man. I try to do good deeds I believe in karma. So if you do good things will happen to you,
Guaranteed. Yeah. So that's good to know. Good to know. And one thing I want to say about that. So yeah, you said it was staged, that episode. Every other episode was real. And obviously they had to throw some grails in to make it look more enticing and more like, more interesting to the audience. And this is like something that kind of is fucked up, in not saying what you did was fucked up, but so many people in this industry, or all these new generations coming into the game, they're like, yo, like, I'm going to go to the thrift store. I'm going to get a mosquito head. I'm going to find a wrap tee at the thrift and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, maybe once in your life, but it's not going to happen all the time. And the reality of picking, like you pick, is like you went to 10 or 8 episodes and didn't really come up on like anything crazy, which is actually the reality of it. So it's like, to make it entertaining, you have to throw something in. And that's what so many of the Instagram community is doing, is like only showing the good. And that's just what social media does anyway. It's like influencers show all the good, not the bad. Yeah. It's what's same with the Instagram vintage community. We show all the sickest shit to make it enticing and make people follow, yet it's not reality, which gives the new people a skewed vision of the business. Which is just interesting to look at that. It's like, and that's what happened on the show to make it fly. And, so it's important. I guess my message here is like, this shit's hard. We don't find shit all the time. Yeah. You go months and months without finding grails or whatever, or, obviously it's like a numbers game. The more work you put in, the better chances of coming up are going to be. But, it can be fucking depressing going out and spending days, hours driving, gas money, and finding fuck all.
Yeah, man, I did that for years, man. I did that for years. And my wife just recently quit her job this year, the top of the year, and she sells kids vintage. That's what she does. But she just bought a pack off.
Yeah, shout out, it's Mini Me Vintage, right?
Mini Me Vintage, get your kids fresh. I mean, she's been doing it now for like 3 years, and just one day, man, she was just fed up with her job. She worked at a courthouse and whatnot for years. It was a good job and all, but she wasn't happy. And I told her, I was like, well, you know what? Like, why not just do this kid stuff and, make it your main income? And, the first like month or whatnot, she was going thrifting and whatnot. She wasn't really finding anything. I was like, babe, you got to understand that, like, not always you're going to find shit. Like there's days where, I would go out for 4 or 5 hours and spend a bunch of gas, and I'd come home with 3 or 4 things, that weren't worth that much, and I was going to probably sit on for a while. And people need to understand. People don't understand that, what you might be out there for all day and you find one piece that's going to make your whole week, it could. It's a hit or
Yeah.
miss, and people don't understand that,
and
man.
it's so. Where do
Not
people
easy.
find? Where does she sell mini me?
So she's been on Etsy
Okay.
for 3 years, and now she is, for the new store that we just opened. We have a kids section in there, and she curates all that.
Nice.
She's
Yeah,
in
check
charge of
her out.
all.
We just sold her a box of like lots of polo and other kids stuff. But definitely go check that out. And it's congratulations to her, by the way, for quitting her fucking job.
Yeah, man, it's doing great, man. And to see all these pieces, I mean, bro, I went to ThriftCon, and like while she was set up, she set up. I didn't set up. I was just there buying. But while she was set up, I was like, hey, you know what? I'll go out, and I mainly just source everything for her if I can, because all my friends, know that we do kids vintage. She just does everything. That's her way of income. But while she was there, I picked up 50 pieces of great pieces while I was there, just going
Yeah.
around. And then everybody knows that we do it. And it's been a success at the store too. Because what other store really like boutique sells, or men's streetwear vintage store sells kids stuff? We sell kids sneakers, we sell kids streetwear, and we sell kids vintage.
Yeah, solid,
It's
man.
just
And I think
stuff.
it's a good market. I think it's going to get better as the business matures, right? Because the people who are in it now, as they get older and have kids, they're going to want to be dressing their kids in vintage for sure, So I think the kids game is going to get stronger. And right now you can still score kids pretty inexpensively. So
Yeah.
might be time to start hoarding some kids gear, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I do, man. Even the stuff that my kids can't fit anymore, because it all started like I had my first. I mean, I was already collecting vintage before I had my son, and I started finding kid stuff, and I was like, man, I should hold on to this stuff, for my son. And my son started wearing all that shit, and then I was like, well, I can still sell this shit after my son's out of it, or keep it for my next child, which I did. And then we made a business out of it, and it's been amazing to see some of these pieces in such a small piece. Like I have here, I'll show you. This is my favorite kids piece.
All right. Oh,
Anybody knows?
Oh, hell
And
yeah.
that thing is fucking tiny too, man.
Yeah, I call that the shoot 'em up Mickey. I don't know if there's like a name for that one, but that's one of the classics, dude.
Yeah, the Cowboy Mickey, but that's a grill, man. But
oh yeah,
man,
I have. I bought my kid before when my wife was pregnant. I think I was at an auction. I got carried away and bought him like a Big E second edition jacket and Big E jeans. Which he never wore because you're like, these things are like so uncomfortable, But I still have them to this day. I think I'm going to put them in a frame and get them on the wall somewhere.
Oh, and you know what? I posted a picture of that, and so many people were like DM me like, how much? I'm like, it's not for sale, dude. Like that piece is super cool. I bought it out. I went out to LA for Rose Bowl, and I went to that denim, the denim show they did up there.
Oh yeah,
Staples. The denim show.
I've never been to that.
It's amazing.
So that's like denim, like new denim and vintage dealers?
No, just vintage denim.
Oh, like the Inspiration, that one?
Yeah, that's what it was. Inspiration.
Oh yeah, Inspiration. Yeah, hell yeah. That show's rad. Yeah, we did that show for years and years. I think it's done now though. I think it's never coming back.
Really?
So how is ThriftCon, by the way? Like, there's kind of a surgence right now of physical retail shows. Like they're fucking popping up. We're having one. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be over because it's this weekend.
Yeah.
But
so, man, I don't know. Dude, ThriftCon was amazing. It's a really good show in Atlanta. They say that ThriftCon Atlanta is the best one.
Like broke records, like for attendance, right? They sold like 10,000 tickets or something.
I think last year was like 15,000 people, I want to say.
Shit. Yeah, but, I got to give shout out to Mars and his partner, I forget his name, and all those guys, Dave, because
Horace, Dave, all of them.
Yeah, they run a fucking legit show. They put so much money into marketing. The show it looks good. Like the installations are good. They get the people to come out. Like it's legit as fuck.
It is, man. And you know what? I that's what I go to a lot of those shows, man, to connect with the people, show my face, show the brand. And I travel for it. You know, I go to I don't go too much to I don't travel for the thrift cons, but shout out to, we have a local one in Atlanta, Vintage Connect Con. It's a good one. I go to Dallas a lot. I love Texas because it's really good sourcing place. So I go to DFW, and then I've been to all the virtuals minus this one. But
Oh
what's
no
odd,
shit! You've been to? I didn't know that. I didn't know you went to all the virtuals. That's crazy.
yeah, man, just try to show face and get rid of the higher pieces and whatnot there. Like I said, my role in the verses is, you know, vintage. I do all the branding, I do all the merch and whatnot, and some of the social media and whatnot. So it was weird, man, because I don't know why they did this, but those 3 shows were all this past weekend.
DFW too.
Yeah.
DFW, is that the one that those guys throw in like their parking lot?
No, they do it at a legit venue.
What does DFW stand for?
Dated, faded, and worn.
Okay. And that's a good one
But
too?
it's Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah. Okay.
It's in Dallas, but this past weekend they did Houston. So I was like, man, first, I don't know. I think DFW posted it first, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm going there. And then Virtual posted it, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm going to Chicago. And then ThriftCon posted it, and I was like, I don't know
I'll
who did.
I'll just stay home. I can just stay home and go to ThriftCon. Why not?
Right. I was like, fuck it, you know. But I didn't know how it was gonna be this year, because last year it fell on like when everybody was getting free money, you know. So a lot of people had a lot of money at the time that ThriftCon came last year. So I was like, man, this shows might not be a success, because last year people just had extra money.
Yeah.
And my wife did outstanding last year. And I told her, I was like, don't expect the same crowd, just because this might, you know, it was a different time. People had more money. Now, you know, people were complaining about gas prices and all that. So you might not have that, you know, don't expect what you did last year like that. That shit was packed again, man. Full on show, a ton of vintage. It was more than enough for anybody and everybody. So it was great, man. Great show. I just wish
That's
that
awesome.
they should. I think that they should have worked together with all these shows, because I think people were stuck between like, I want to go to ThriftCon, I want to go to DFW, I want to go to, you know, ThriftCon.
Virtual. Yeah.
Virtual.
So yeah, that makes sense. Like communicate. Just text, guys. All you gotta do is text each other. Come on.
I'm not gonna say who, but I heard somebody got salty about them doing ThriftCon and not going to virtual. I'm not gonna say who, but I heard some beef, and I was just like, really, man? Like, I don't know. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, like this
Make
business is
make your money, man. Don't worry about somebody else.
yeah, and this business is too small to like worry about that shit. There's events popping up, like it seems like I said, everywhere now.
Yeah,
And
which is
it's
good.
fucking It's great. It's great. It allows these other sellers to have like a place to make money. It allows places where the customers can go and like buy a ton of great stuff in one foul swoop and like get introduced to all the new people. Yeah, I'm super down with the whole like live flea event thing. It's
Me
great.
too, man. As long as this stuff keeps growing, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just gonna make it better for all of us, especially for the store owners, man. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you have more people bringing you shit.
Yeah, totally. And
Oh
that's a great
man,
model, and that's a model that didn't exist like 10 years ago. You
yeah,
know, that
absolutely.
you know, you guys say like your sneakers and your streetwear comes in the door, you're the vintage sourcer, you're out there sourcing. You probably get some vintage coming in the door too, right?
No, absolutely. A lot of venture sellers come in, but I've just kind of built a good relationship with. You know, I have. If I go to Texas, I have my sources. If I go to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, I have my sources. If I go to North Carolina, I have my sources. That like I keep a small circle of people that I mess with, but I'm always willing to buy off anybody and everybody. But I
Even
do.
customers eating dinner.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, man, I've been out with my whole family and be like, "Hey, babe, hold on, give me 1 second, and I'll buy a shirt." You know, at the flea market, I remember I was with my whole family at the flea market, This guy comes in. He's wearing a Bob Marley rap tee and a polo jacket. I was like, I bought his shirt right off his back, and he's just walking around shirtless with a jacket on. I was like, fuck yeah.
So legit.
My,
Oh
my,
man, that's fucking awesome.
my kids have seen me do it. It's awesome. I'm like, Dad, did you just buy a shirt off him? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of your kids, I just saw that you took your oldest 10-year-old. By the way, my oldest is 10 too. To Oliver Tree, and he got the bowl cut. I'm gonna put a picture on this screen for all you to see right here because it is fucking legit. This is a big fan moment. So
He's
yo,
actually been getting bowl cut for like over a year now, and he
because of
quit
Oliver
recently.
Tree.
Yeah,
So
it's been my son. It's been my son's favorite artist now for like a year, maybe like 2 years now or something, you know. But he started doing it like that, and his mom hates the bowl cut, hates it. So she was like, "Hey, if you get rid of the bowl cut, I'll buy you a new video game or something." And he was like, "Oh, okay, cool, I'll do it." And I was like, "Dude, you did it. That's a ballsy move right there. Like, you know, you got to have a lot of confidence to be able to rock the bowl cut because nobody's wearing a bowl cut, you
No.
know." And when he got it, I was like, "Man, I hope kids don't make fun of him or anything." And nobody did until yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. He came home. He was very upset. Very upset, man. It was a bummer. But
That's
you
the
know,
trials and tribulations, man. That's the shit you deal with as a kid. That's the shit you deal with as a parent, having your kids come home and be bummed out.
yeah, and like I said, and bro, we went to the show, man, and people were like taking pictures with him. People were like, dude, cool haircut, cool outfit, you know. Hella people taking pictures with him, you know. So it was really cool. It was the first show ever, man. So I
That's
was very
sick.
stoked to take him.
And that stuff is outweighs the idiot at school making fun of him by a long shot. So good for you, man. So I think that's a good place to end it, dude. You got anyone you want to shout out? You got any last words for the people on the show?
Shout out to Versus ATL. Check us out. Instagram at VSATL.
Yeah, we'll put that right on the screen. Everybody, make sure you follow.
If you guys are in Atlanta, please come by and check us out, man. The store is like this new store that we opened up is curated very, very well, man. I'm very happy with it because what we did with it is the front of the store is all sneakers and streetwear. And then behind the register area, we have a room that is strictly vintage, which we give you a whole like 90s kids bedroom vibe. We have a bed in there. We have a TV with a VCR player, Nintendo 64 you can play in there, and a kids vintage section, a denim section, and like just t-shirts, outerwear, all that. It's just curated very well put together, clean. I'm very happy with it, man. I really am. This is literally my dream store. So if you guys are in town, come check us out. Shout out to Monterey and Knoxville. If you're ever in Knoxville, Tennessee, go to Monterey Mexican restaurant. Best Mexican food in the city. And
yeah.
shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody who's out here grinding and doing this, man, and making a living and trying to make it a living out of it, you know? Because, I mean, it can take you anywhere, man. You know, like I've been very successful with what we've done and what I've built. So I'm very happy with it. So everybody, you know, keep hustling, keep grinding, man. Don't be salty about the game.
Yeah, that ain't gonna get you nowhere. Being salty won't get you nowhere.
Nowhere, man.
Danny, thank you very much. I'm super happy for all your success. Go watch the show, guys. Go check out Versus ATL. Go to Monterey because I'm going to. And if you go, make sure you wear a shirt that he can try to off the back you. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Much appreciated as always. Hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed the conversation with Danny. He's a great guy with a great life, and he's doing cool things, and I'm so happy for all his success. If you guys appreciate this episode, please go share it. You can share it on Instagram. You can share it on Facebook. You can email it to a friend if you really, really love it. Also, if you want bonus content, I got some extra clips with Danny. I'm putting them on the Patreon. Patreon down below. This is season 5, episode 2, and I'm back on the Patreon. I'm back on weekly episodes. If you really want to support, you can get on the Patreon for as little as $2, and there's going to be bonus content on there, okay? Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And one last way you can support. I don't condone or really support Amazon, but I know you guys are on there shopping anyway. So if you're on there shopping anyway, you can use my link down below, and I get a little piece of the action. So without doing anything, without actually giving me money, you're supporting the show by using my Amazon link down below. That's it. Like this video, subscribe, leave me a review, and I'll see you on the next one. Episodes dropping Mondays weekly.